ZipRecruiter, I don't know if any of y'all have ever heard about it, so I'm just going to read it to you. It's a must-have. With ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to 100 of the web's leading job boards with just one click. So you can rest easy knowing your job is being seen by the right candidates, okay? ZipRecruiter puts its smart matching technology to work, actively notifying qualified candidates about your job within minutes of posting so you receive the best possible matches. That's why our ZipRecruiter is different. Unlike other hiring sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on the right candidates finding you. It finds them. No wonder 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Stephen A. One more time to try for free to go to ZipRecruiter.com/Stephen A. It's something you need to know. Because right now my listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/Stephen A.
Guys, wouldn't your wife or girlfriend love it if you treated her to the very best this Christmas? Now you can, with the world's softest pajamas by Pajamagram. Created by a team of pajama experts, the world's softest PJs are lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny, like cashmere, only better. She'll love how heavenly they feel. Includes free gift packaging and Christmas delivery is guaranteed. So visit pajamagram.com or call 1-800-GIVE-PJs.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you, as I love to do, every weekday that I can, over the airwaves of ESPN Radio. That's 98.7 FM New York City. That's 710 ESPN LA. And, of course, nationwide over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, Sirius XM style, Channel 80. Number to call up, as always, is 866-729-3776. That's 866-729-ESPN, 866-SAY-ESPN. My apologies for being gone the previous 3 days, last week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I can't even put into words for y'all how sick I was. I've never had a sinus infection affect me in that way. Voice was gone, coughing up mucus, sneezing every 3 seconds. I've blown my nose more in over a 4-day span than I did in 4 years. That's how bad it was. That is why you didn't see me anywhere on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday of last week. My apologies to my listeners everywhere. I sincerely apologize. I was sick as a dog. It's just that simple. But I am back in full effect. Lots of stuff to get into today. We'll be carrying the Giancarlo Stanton press conference in New York anyway for newest Yankee, 59 home runs, National League MVP. There's no question that this is a big-time pickup for the New York Yankees. It's something we'll pontificate and debate about over the course of some parts of the next 2 hours. There's no doubt about that. Lots of NFL action to get into, especially based off of what we saw last night. What a game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Los Angeles Rams. What a game. A spectacular game that ended up with the Eagles losing, or winning rather, 43-35. Rams are no joke. They're formidable. They can beat anybody. Gurley, the way that he performed, Jared Goff and some of the things that he showed, along with Kupp and others. And that defense is nothing to sneeze at despite giving up 43 points. It was an aberration. They've got some talent on the Los Angeles Rams. Eagles clearly the class of the NFC, at least before what transpired in the third quarter transpired. And that was Carson Wentz running in for a touchdown, getting hit, ultimately in the leg and the knee area, the left knee. And as a result, it's feared that he may have suffered the torn ACL, and that would end his season. And we got to think about what that does to the balance of power within the National Football Conference. Giants are a non-factor. We know all of that. But Dallas Cowboys, they're on the come up. Green Bay expecting Aaron Rodgers to come back. He'll be eligible to come back anyway. Carolina's no joke. New Orleans is no joke. Atlanta, the reigning NFC champions, is still in the picture. Seattle, as formidable as they are, lost the game last night, and we'll get into that in a second. And, of course, the Rams. There's a whole bunch of stuff to look into, and I guess we can't ignore the Detroit Lions. They are 7-6 after all. We can't ignore them. But the reality is that everything that we thought about the Philadelphia Eagles, how this may very well have been the best team that we've seen them have, it goes back to what the hell did they do to the gods? Maybe I shouldn't use those words in the same sentence. What did they do to the gods? because some black cat running around somewhere. I mean, this franchise can't catch a break. In pursuit of its first Super Bowl title ever, having gone to the Super Bowl in 1980, having gone to the Super Bowl in 2004, you thought that this was destiny. New Orleans is on a come up. They finally have a defense, but likelihood is that they be playing in Philadelphia, not inside the dome in New Orleans. That would be a plus for Philly. Carolina's no joke, but that's because of their defense. Their offense is suspect at times. Atlanta doesn't look to be the team that it was last year. Minnesota is no joke, but Case Keenum is their quarterback. And Dalvin Cook can't run the football for them because he got injured after they moved beyond the Adrian Peterson era. Aaron Rodgers goes down because of that hit by Barr in week 3 or 4. Detroit, they might have the highest paid player, but they still haven't won a playoff game since 1991. Seattle still doesn't have an offensive line and a suspect running game. Los Angeles, they're there, but then again, they're not because they're still puppies in this business. And I'm talking about as great as the players are, as great as their coach has been, because he's my coach of the year, Mr. McVay himself. I mean, damn. I got nieces and nephews older than him. Talk about puppies. So when you look at it, it's just a sad, sad state of affairs that the Eagles find themselves in this position, where they're clear favorites to come out of the NFC and represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. Now, that's up in smoke, depending on who you're listening to or who you believe. 866-SAY-ESPN. It's 866-729-3776. It's one of the topics we'll discuss. The other that we'll have to discuss is involving the NFL. And what should the NFL do about Mr. Quinton Jefferson? For those of you who missed it, the Seattle Seahawks lost a game to a team we should all be talking about, which is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Number 1 ranked defense in the NFL. Top 3 against the pass. Top 5 in yards allowed. This defense is no joke. And they certainly put that on display against Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks last night. But ultimately, they won the game. And in the process of winning the game, before it was over, things were instigated with Michael Bennett. You know that dude, Sportsman of the Year, Man of the Year, Walter Payton, Citizenship Award winner. That dude, Michael Bennett, who I respect and genuinely like, he instigated some problematic situations yesterday because when Jacksonville is just kneeling down and ready to close out the game, the truculent, temperamental Seattle Seahawks, led by Bennett, reminiscent of when Pete Carroll and Darrell Bevell made the worst call in Super Bowl history by electing to throw a pass instead of giving the ball to Marshawn Lynch a few years back. This was something along those lines because the defense comes out on the field incredibly frustrated by what they witnessed, knowing they were going to lose the game, and instead of letting Jacksonville kneel down, what does Michael Bennett do? He rolls his body into the knee of an offensive lineman blocking against him. Obviously, shoves and fisticuffs ensue. Leonard Fournette, the rookie running back, runs over to one of the defensive linemen and shoves their face because he saw what they tried to do to his offensive lineman. Sheldon Richardson, former New York Jet, ended up getting himself ejected for doing the same thing. And ultimately, Quinton Jefferson ended up getting ejected as well, defensive lineman for the Seattle Seahawks. But upon exiting and going into the tunnel, what happens? Somebody decides to throw a bottle with liquid in it right at Quinton Jefferson. He has his helmet on. He's walking into the locker room. It was a plastic bottle, but it was full. It almost hit him. He sees it. He's already hot and emotional. He takes his helmet off. He walks over towards the stands. Gets into a verbal sparring match with fans. Not the most advisable thing for him to do. No doubt about it, but that's what happened. After that transpired, he's getting ready to walk away again. And this time, somebody throws a bottle right at him, nearly hit him in the face. And then he charges towards the stands and tries to climb the wall to get into the stands because he saw who threw that one. Security restrains him. Afterwards, he's talking to the media. Michael Bennett sticks his nose where it doesn't belong and tells the media to get the hell away from him. Quinton Jefferson, I'll play the quote for you a little bit, but essentially, to paraphrase, he said, what am I supposed to do? I'm not going to be disrespected. I'm a man. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. I'd find Quinton Jefferson, no doubt about it. But in the same breath, I don't blame him one damn bit. I really don't. I really, really can't. I'll explain why in just a minute.
Want to be a part of the show? Hit Stephen A. up weekdays from 1 to 3 Eastern at 866-729-3776.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm so happy, I feel like I can fly.
Disclaimer, you will not be able to fly by switching to Geico. This is against the laws of physics and nature. If you find yourself flying, please seek professional and or medical help immediately. In the unlikely event you find yourself flying, you might be a superhero, or a pigeon, or a superhero named Pidgewoman, who was bitten by a radioactive pigeon. If you are indeed Pidgewoman, Geico retains all licensing publishing rights in the event Pidgewoman the movie becomes a top-grossing Hollywood blockbuster.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you, as I love to do, every weekday that I can, over the airwaves of ESPN Radio. That's 98.7 FM New York City. That's 710 ESPN LA. And, of course, nationwide over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, Sirius XM style, Channel 80. Number to call up, as always, is 866-729-3776. That's 866-729-ESPN, 866-SAY-ESPN. My apologies for being gone the previous 3 days, last week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I can't even put into words for y'all how sick I was. I've never had a sinus infection affect me in that way. Voice was gone, coughing up mucus, sneezing every 3 seconds. I've blown my nose more in over a 4-day span than I did in 4 years. That's how bad it was. That is why you didn't see me anywhere on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday of last week. My apologies to my listeners everywhere. I sincerely apologize. I was sick as a dog. It's just that simple. But I am back in full effect. Lots of stuff to get into today. We'll be carrying the Giancarlo Stanton press conference in New York anyway for newest Yankee, 59 home runs, National League MVP. There's no question that this is a big-time pickup for the New York Yankees. It's something we'll pontificate and debate about over the course of some parts of the next 2 hours. There's no doubt about that. Lots of NFL action to get into, especially based off of what we saw last night. What a game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Los Angeles Rams. What a game. A spectacular game that ended up with the Eagles losing, or winning rather, 43-35. Rams are no joke. They're formidable. They can beat anybody. Gurley, the way that he performed, Jared Goff and some of the things that he showed, along with Kupp and others. And that defense is nothing to sneeze at despite giving up 43 points. It was an aberration. They've got some talent on the Los Angeles Rams. Eagles clearly the class of the NFC, at least before what transpired in the third quarter transpired. And that was Carson Wentz running in for a touchdown, getting hit, ultimately in the leg and the knee area, the left knee. And as a result, it's feared that he may have suffered a torn ACL, and that would end his season. And we got to think about what that does to the balance of power within the National Football Conference. Giants are a non-factor. We know all of that. But Dallas Cowboys, they're on the come up. Green Bay expecting Aaron Rodgers to come back. He'll be eligible to come back anyway. Carolina's no joke. New Orleans is no joke. Atlanta, the reigning NFC champions, is still in the picture. Seattle, as formidable as they are, lost a game last night, and we'll get into that in a second. And, of course, the Rams. There's a whole bunch of stuff to look into, and I guess we can't ignore the Detroit Lions. They are 7-6 after all. We can't ignore them. But the reality is that everything that we thought about the Philadelphia Eagles, how this may very well have been the best team that we've seen them have, it goes back to what the hell did they do to the gods? Maybe I shouldn't use those words in the same sentence. What did they do to the gods? Because some black cat running around somewhere. I mean, this franchise can't catch a break. In pursuit of its first Super Bowl title ever, having gone to the Super Bowl in 1980, having gone to the Super Bowl in 2004, you thought that this was destiny. New Orleans is on a come up. They finally have a defense, but likelihood is that they be playing in Philadelphia, not inside the dome in New Orleans. That would be a plus for Philly. Carolina's no joke, but that's because of their defense. Their offense is suspect at times. Atlanta doesn't look to be the team that it was last year. Minnesota is no joke, but Case Keenum is their quarterback. And Dalvin Cook can't run the football for them because he got injured after they moved beyond the Adrian Peterson era. Aaron Rodgers goes down because of that hit by Barr in week 3 or 4. Detroit, they may have the highest paid player, but they still haven't won a playoff game since 1991. Seattle still doesn't have an offensive line and a suspect running game. Los Angeles, they're there, but then again, they're not because they're still puppies in this business. And I'm talking about as great as the players are, as great as their coach has been, because he's my coach of the year, Mr. McVay himself. I mean, damn. I got nieces and nephews older than him. Talk about puppies. And so when you look at it, it's just a sad, sad state of affairs that the Eagles find themselves in this position, where they're clear favorites to come out of the NFC and represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. Now, that's up in smoke, depending on who you're listening to or who you believe. 866-SAY-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. It's one of the topics we'll discuss. The other that we'll have to discuss is involving the NFL. And what should the NFL do about Mr. Quinton Jefferson? For those of you who missed it, the Seattle Seahawks lost a game to a team we should all be talking about, which is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Number 1 ranked defense in the NFL. Top 3 against the pass. Top 5 in yards allowed. This defense is no joke. And they certainly put that on display against Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks last night. But ultimately, they won the game. And in the process of winning the game, before it was over, things were instigated with Michael Bennett. You know that dude, Sportsman of the Year, Man of the Year, Walter Payton, Citizenship Award winner. That dude, Michael Bennett, who I respect and genuinely like, he instigated some problematic situations yesterday because when Jacksonville is just kneeling down and ready to close out the game, the truculent, temperamental Seattle Seahawks, led by Bennett, reminiscent of when Pete Carroll and Darrell Bevell made the worst call in Super Bowl history by electing to throw a pass instead of giving the ball to Marshawn Lynch a few years back. This was something along those lines because the defense comes out on the field incredibly frustrated by what they witnessed, knowing they were going to lose the game, and instead of letting Jacksonville kneel down, what does Michael Bennett do? He rolls his body into the knee of an offensive lineman blocking against him. Obviously, shoves and fisticuffs ensue. Leonard Fournette, the rookie running back, runs over to one of the defensive linemen and shoves their face because he saw what they tried to do to his offensive lineman. Sheldon Richardson, former New York Jet, ended up getting himself ejected for doing the same thing. And ultimately, Quinton Jefferson ended up getting ejected as well, defensive lineman for the Seattle Seahawks. But upon exiting and going into the tunnel, what happens? Somebody decides to throw a bottle with liquid in it right at Quinton Jefferson. He has his helmet on. He's walking into the locker room. It was a plastic bottle, but it was full. It almost hit him. He sees it. He's already hot and emotional. He takes his helmet off. He walks over towards the stands. Gets into a verbal sparring match with fans. Not the most advisable thing for him to do. No doubt about it, but that's what happened. After that transpired, he's getting ready to walk away again. And this time, somebody throws a bottle right at him, nearly hit him in the face. And then he charges towards the stands and tries to climb the wall to get into the stands because he saw who threw that one. Security restrains him. Afterwards, he's talking to the media. Michael Bennett sticks his nose where it doesn't belong and tells the media to get the hell away from him. Quinton Jefferson, I'll play the quote for you a little bit, but essentially, to paraphrase, he said, what am I supposed to do? I'm not going to be disrespected. I'm a man. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. I'd find Quinton Jefferson, no doubt about it. But in the same breath, I don't blame him one damn bit. I really don't. I really, really can't. I'll explain why in just a minute.
Want to be a part of the show? Hit Stephen A. up weekdays from 1 to 3 Eastern at 866-729-3776.
33 minutes past hour number 1 back here in the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Once again, top of hour number 2. In the New York market, we'll be carrying the Stanton press conference. The newest member of the New York Yankees, Bronx Bombers, bring the 59 home runs last season, National League MVP to the Bronx. It's going to be something special, offensively anyway. I'm still looking for that pitching. But I love the fact that Giancarlo Stanton is here in New York City. 866-729-ESPN. It's 866-SAY-ESPN. Would have been nice if the Dodgers could have gotten him too, though. I ain't going to lie. As much time as I spend out in L.A. Anywhere he is, I want to watch. It's just that simple. But I got a lot of NFL action to talk about right now. Ryan Clark, NFL analyst extraordinaire, is on the line with yours truly right now. What's going on, Ryan? How are you?
Man, you still talk about them old cheating Yankees, man? Yankees cheating, man.
Cheating? How we cheating?
Yankees be cheating, man. They just go pay the luxury tax. They just go pay the luxury tax. They probably gave Derek Jeter some money.
Well, wait a minute, Ryan Clark. I mean, I think that the Yankees are still going to get under the $197 million tax threshold. I don't know. Listen. Just because they got deeper pockets than the rest, I mean, don't hate, appreciate. Okay?
Hey, I'm hating.
It's okay, so long as you're willing to admit it. Let's get to some football, though, because on a serious note, I just finished talking about what happened in Jacksonville with Quinton Jefferson walking off the field and getting those water bottles thrown at him. I thought Michael Bennett should have just stayed out of it since he was the one instigating it and all of that stuff. You got nerves telling him not to talk to anybody and all of this other stuff. But what are your thoughts about Quinton Jefferson, the punishment, if any, you feel he should receive, and just as important, just the Seattle Seahawks seeming to lose it again?
Well, I think the first thing with Quinton Jefferson, this is from the outside and obviously the perception of the NFL, but I'm more concerned with the perception of him. I wish he could have just walked into the locker room when the first bottle was thrown.
Yeah.
It's easy for me to say I wasn't already agitated from a game I lost and from a fight I was just in, and I do understand what he's saying about being human, but he's also a football player, and in being an NFL football player, you are expected to behave in a different manner than the fans. I understand that he was mad and he wanted to figure out who threw it at him and have that conversation. But the thing that happens, Stephen A., once he goes back, he can't win. Right? There's no way for him to win. He's still the big bad football player cussing at people in the stands. And then now when they throw something else at you that actually does hit you, and I actually don't think he thought he was ever going to get in the stands, and you rush toward the stands, that is what we are talking about. Your name will always be associated with that. I understand the anger in it, but you have to walk in when that first bottle is thrown. That doesn't hit you. I understand being upset. You could talk about it in the press conference, but just for him, you don't want that, because now every picture we see, the picture that Jeff Darlington tweeted, is of this big bad football player, angry black man behaving in this manner. And I don't like that perception for the player. Now, you go back to the play. Greg Williams had a rule when we were in Washington was we always rushed the kneel down. We always rushed the victory formation, saying he'd be like, you never know, a lineman might bump the quarterback. He could fumble. If you rush the center, it could be a missed center quarterback exchange. So we always played through that. And now, teams got very upset about that. That's a play that offensive people would like to be a dead play. Like, we've won the game, it's over, don't play anymore. This was a one-score game. Seattle continued to play. We've seen this happen in the Super Bowl after Malcolm Butler gets the interception. And so if I'm a team who goes into – now, Seattle does this every time. It's victory formation. This is what they do. So you know this is going to happen. You have to prepare yourself for it. This isn't new. Seattle doesn't do this to start a fight. They do this because it keeps the mentality of play to the last play. I'm not defending it. I'm just telling you what it is. And everybody's screaming about Michael Bennett diving at his knees. Watch the play. He tried to hit the ball. I've seen guys.
Well, then in fairness to Michael Bennett, then I apologize because I thought I saw him going at the knee. I did not see him going at the ball, so I might have missed that. I might have missed that.
Hand. Yeah, you watch his right hand. He swipes at the ball. Now, this still in the brotherhood of the NFL isn't a play we're used to seeing because we're used to seeing guys protect other players in this instance. But he was continuing to play. He tried to swipe the ball, hit the guy's legs. I get it. It's a bad look. He wasn't protecting the brother. All those things are true. But Seattle plays to the whistle. So now when you retaliate because you're upset that they're continuing to play, this is the rest of it. And I do agree that it was their actions on the victory formation that caused the fight. But I don't agree necessarily that their actions are wrong. They're just different.
Ryan Clark,
everybody doesn't play that way. Everybody isn't told to play that way. I've been on a team that was, though.
Got you. Ryan Clark right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Let's transition back to the football field of play. Big time game in Los Angeles yesterday.
Yes, sir.
Eagles end up beating the Los Angeles Rams, but losing Carson Wentz. Right. We don't know yet whether it's official if he's lost for the season.
It's official.
It's official now.
It just became official.
It just became official. All right. So it's official. Carson Wentz is out for the rest of the year. Does that mean that the Eagles are done?
It does not mean that they're done. Their chances aren't as good as they were with him. Carson Wentz has been great at the second play. When the play breaks down, getting outside of the pocket and making miraculous things happen. You're not going to get that from Nick Foles. So now Doug Peterson has to look at it and say, who's my quarterback and what are the other strengths of my offense and my team? And I believe if you can do that, this team can still be competitive. If you look at the other quarterbacks in the NFC right now, no one's necessarily playing great except for Russell Wilson. The other quarterbacks have their issues. I think Case Keenum is playing really good. But let's be honest, to all of us, he's still Case Keenum. To Mike Zimmer, he's still Case Keenum. And so they have an opportunity with Nick Foles to be competitive. But I heard Mort say it today on SportsCenter. With Carson Wentz, they were special. With Nick Foles, they're competitive. So it's a much different team. Everyone else has to step up around them. And we talked about it earlier. This defense that was very good up until the last 2 weeks has to return to that form.
So with that being said, I mean, you to be clear, you still think the Eagles are the number one team in the NFC?
I do not.
Who do you believe?
I do not think that the Eagles are the number one team.
Well, who's number one?
Even with the loss in Carolina, I think Minnesota is the team to beat. They got a little banged up on defense yesterday. You saw some uncharacteristic plays from them defensively, but I still think that the Minnesota Vikings are the team to beat. And when the Carolina Panthers get Cam Newton to play the way that he can, that team is scary.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Why not Carolina right now over Minnesota? Why not in your eyes?
Well, I feel like yesterday, they were able to make some plays, but I think the Minnesota we saw wasn't the Minnesota we've seen the last 8 weeks. It seems like 8 wins is the breaking point now for streaks. But that Minnesota team, the mistakes that were made, the interception that was thrown, some of the bust on defense, we haven't seen those things. I think Carolina is in that discussion, but I need to see more consistent play from Cam Newton, which I have seen from Case Keenum.
Let's transition over to the AFC before I let you get on out of here. I watched the Steelers win a game last night, 39-38 over the Baltimore Ravens. I'm not impressed, Ryan. Their offense is high-octane, it's high-powered.
I know you are nervous.
Defensively, I'm nervous because, once again, we're seeing problems in the secondary. Rear its ugly here. Now, obviously, Ron Shazier, our prayers are all out to him. We want him to get well. After that spinal injury he suffered over a week ago, we wish him nothing but the best. But with him gone, clearly that speed at the linebacker spot in terms of getting outside, it wasn't there. Mm-hmm. And Joe Hayden, as one of your corners, he's out. You don't know when he's going to be back. I'm very, very concerned. What about you?
No, I am extremely concerned. I remember we had a couple of weeks where me and you were basically high-fiving on TV. We felt like they had finally fixed it. We were excited. And you said it when Joe Hayden went down. You were concerned. And at that point, I wasn't. I was like, you know what? These guys can figure it out. They can pull it together. Davis is playing well. Mitchell's playing well. Well, Mitchell has been banged up. Sensabaugh hasn't played as well as the corner. Last night we saw Cam Sutton get some play. But I was really, really concerned with the speed sideline to sideline of the linebackers. The tackling sideline to sideline of the middle linebackers. Arthur Moats played a little bit. They brought in Sean Spence. But to watch Collins run through arm tackles and outrun...
With ease.
Yeah, with ease, and outrun the linebacker. This really scares me because if you go into a game against the New England Patriots where you're giving up huge plays in the passing game, you're not tackling, and you're going to stop Tom Brady, there's no way. And we all know that what the Patriots do defensively is take away what you do best, which will be 26 or 84. And so this doesn't bode well going down the stretch for the Pittsburgh Steelers if they can't fix their defensive woes.
Ryan Clark, appreciate you, buddy. Thanks as always, man. I'll talk
to
you soon.
Always.
Absolutely. One and only Ryan Clark. You can catch him on NFL Live today, no doubt, as he is a couple of weekdays, a couple of times during the weekdays, right here on ESPN. And he's always here on ESPN Radio with yours truly every single week.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Warren, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
No, what's up, Steve? Just a quick comment on that Seattle-Jacksonville game or whatever. Outside of that them throwing the beer or whatever, because that was petty, and I don't blame them for going up in those stands either. I mess around with the same thing. But I'm not a real big Seattle fan or whatever. And sometimes, like, maybe more so how they carry themselves, because they run their mouth a lot. And it'd be days like how they lost to Jacksonville like that or whatever. It'd be times where they deserve to eat some humble pie. Because they did the same thing when the Patriots beat them in that Super Bowl, too. How they kind of act out more so toward the end of the game. So
I agree. I agree, but again,
I hate him for it. I do, man.
The issue is the bottle throwing and all of that stuff. It ain't all of that. We all know how Seattle can get when they know they've lost the game.
All right, they just act kind of petty about it. Like they do kind of come off as sore losers. And one more quick thing or whatever. I don't know. I'm premature about it, but who you got next week in that Steelers Patriots game? Because I've been kind of looking forward to it at this point, man.
Let me tell you something. The Steelers could win the game, but I don't know which way to go because I see the Steelers get shredded by Alex Collins last night. How the hell am I supposed to believe they could beat the Patriots? But then Juju Smith-Schuster's coming back, and who knows if Hayden will be back or James Harrison will be back or what have you. So I just don't know. I'd bet my money on the Steelers because it's the regular season. If it were the playoffs, I'd be picking the Patriots. Got to run, though. Thanks a lot. Let's go to Luis in Queens. You're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Luis, go ahead. Luis, are you there? Louis, are you there?
Yes, I am. What's going on, brother?
You don't worry. Don't ask me what's going on. What's going on with you? I'm on the air. What you doing? Speak up. Go ahead.
All right, man. I'm a huge Yankee fan, and since the boss died, I've been hearing that how he's not the boss. He's not George. You know, I wish George was back. This move by the Yankees is the most Yankee thing ever. And you know what? I'm gonna.
Whoa! I wouldn't say it's the most Yankee thing ever. But it's definitely a Yankee move, no doubt about it. It's reminiscent of the days of George Steinbrenner.
I'm going to one-up it, too. I think it's better than anything that George has done.
Why would you say that?
Because we gave away a second baseman and two prospects that, okay, they were touted as good, but not great.
You know why you can't say that? You know why you can't say that? You know why you can't say that, Louis? Can't say that? You can't say that because Stanton's got 10 years and $295 million left on the deal. That's even more than you decided to pay Alex Rodriguez. Remember, when Alex Rodriguez came from Texas, he was in the midst of a $250 million contract. When he re-signed with the Yankees years later, he got $275 million. You owe Stanton $295 million. He hasn't swung a bat for you yet. His durability is questionable, even though this past year he was healthy and played lights out. You don't know. We hope, but we don't know. Appreciate the call, man.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app.
ZipRecruiter, I don't know if any of y'all have ever heard about it, so I'm just going to read it to you. It's a must-have. With ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to 100 of the web's leading job boards with just one click. So you can rest easy knowing your job is being seen by the right candidates, okay? ZipRecruiter puts its smart matching technology to work, actively notifying qualified candidates about your job within minutes of posting so you receive the best possible matches. That's why our ZipRecruiter is different. Unlike other hiring sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on the right candidates finding you. it finds them. No wonder 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Stephen A. One more time to try for free to go to ZipRecruiter.com/Stephen A. It's something you need to know. Because right now my listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/Stephen A.
Guys, wouldn't your wife or girlfriend love it if you treated her to the very best this Christmas? Now you can, with the world's softest pajamas by Pajamagram. Created by a team of pajama experts, the world's softest PJs are lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny, like cashmere, only better. She'll love how heavenly they feel. Includes free gift packaging and Christmas delivery is guaranteed. So visit pajamagram.com or call 1-800-GIVE-PJs.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A.
Or number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show, here with you for the next hour over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, Sirius XM Channel 80. Number to call, as always, is 866-SAY-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Lots of stuff to get into. Lots of NFL action that took place yesterday. The Jets got obliterated in Denver. The Giants got embarrassed by the Dallas Cowboys. Eli Manning gets a standing ovation. Looks like straight garbage thereafter. The Los Angeles Rams, despite losing to the Philadelphia Eagles, looked very, very formidable, particularly with Carson Wentz going down. If the Rams can beat Seattle, if they can ensure that they're going to end up in the playoffs, you never know what kind of noise they can make within the NFC conference. The Chargers are suddenly the team to beat. Winners of 6 of their last 8 games. The way that they're looking right now, the AFC West should be theirs. Those are the kind of things you got to pay attention to. The Steelers, despite winning 39-38 over the Baltimore Ravens yesterday, I am not sold on their secondary. Therefore, I am not sold on their defense. Therefore, I do not believe that they can beat the New England Patriots in an AFC Championship game with a Super Bowl berth on the line. But you never know, particularly if the road to the Super Bowl has to go through Heinz Field as opposed to going through Foxborough and Gillette Stadium. All of those things are things to think about. You saw the Buffalo Bills still relevant because they gave the ball to my man Shady McCoy in a blizzard and weather and inclement weather conditions. That's the worst that some reporters and players have ever seen in all their years. All of that stuff is worthy things to get into. But the one thing that we can't avoid talking about is what transpired yesterday with quarterback Tom Savage of the Houston Texans. Took a hit that put him on the ground and left him on the ground, literally in what they call like a fencing position. His arms went up, damn near looking like rigor mortis when a dog gets hit or something like that. And his hands were twitching. It was scary. A possession later, this man was back in the game. I mean, how does that happen? How does that happen? Savage was checked out in a medical tent for less than 3 minutes, then returned to the game for one series, threw 2 incomplete passes, went to the locker room with 2 minutes remaining in the first half, and was replaced by T.J. Yates. He had spent time talking to the team's medical staff after taking a hit. Before the Texans' next offensive series, a team official held on to Savage's jersey and arm as he tried to go onto the field. Savage could be seen arguing with the team official before he was escorted to the locker room by the team's trainer. But the point that Savage was allowed back on the field at all drew the ire of a guy by the name of Chris Nowinski. You may have heard of him before. He's the founding CEO of the Concussion Legacy Foundation and co-director of Boston University's Center for the Study of Traumatic Encephalopathy. That's CTE, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who may not know. And quote, here's from Nowinski. This is what Nowinski, rather. He has his Twitter handle is @Chris Nowinski, NOWINSKI1. He says, quote, tweet, disgusted that the Houston Texans allowed Tom Savage to return to the game after 2 plays after showing these horrifying concussion signs. Parentheses, is that a seizure? Question mark. Parentheses. After a head impact. I would not let my worst enemy go through the 2017 NFL sideline concussion protocol. End quote. And that brings us to a bigger issue. Any problems with the concussion protocols for the National Football League? I have one. Let's be clear. This ain't just on the NFL. It's on the NFL Players Association as well. They came up with the protocols together. It was a collaborative effort. You got 4 independent experts. You got a team doctor, 2 medical experts, a neurologist as well. You got sideline videos with the benefit of replay to defer to. You got a whole bunch of stuff that you could choose to do to make sure you ensure that these kind of mistakes don't happen. Ladies and gentlemen, go back and watch the replay of Tom Savage on the ground, his hands and fingers, just flickering. It was scary. It was scary to see that. So scary to the point that Bill O'Brien said that had he seen the video at the time, of Tom Savage on the turf twitching like that, he would not have let him back in the game. That's what Bill O'Brien said, the coach of the Houston Texans. This is some serious, serious stuff. And let me tell you something right now. I wasn't here last week because I was too ill. Mike Mitchell for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm a fan. Good brother, hard worker, good player. Very, very ignorant statements came out of his mouth last week. It's a man's game. You know it's a man's game. You know the risk, you know what you signed up for, blah, blah, blah. Well, first of all, players from the past didn't know. That's why you got these multi-billion-dollar lawsuits being aimed in the direction of the National Football League, because there was information that the players believe were not disseminated to them. So they weren't operating with full knowledge of the situation and the potential consequences. That's number one. Number 2, is it just me, ladies and gentlemen, or am I the only one? Am I the only one getting tired of football players complaining about it being a man's game? You know, I can take that from boxers, UFC fighters, etc. I can take that from them. You know why? Because that's hand-to-hand combat. In boxing, in football, it's various other forms of contact. I can deal with all of that. I truly, truly can. But what resonates with me, what gets on my last damn nerves, is players, specifically defensive players. And I'm going to call out my buddy, Ray Lewis, former colleague at ESPN, now doing work for Fox Sports. I love the brother. He and I know each other well. But we disagree in this respect. When you just say it's a man's game, you act like it's straight up. If you're a football player and you're throwing a football, and a defensive player has free reign at you, and you have no way to defend yourself because you're throwing the damn football, right? What do you mean it's a man's game? Why are you acting like it's a straight up fight? And you just knocked his head off, and he could defend himself, and he just wasn't gifted enough to do it. No! If you're an offensive player and you're standing in a pocket as a quarterback, or you're running down the sideline as a wide receiver looking up at the football, and somebody ain't even thinking about it, they're just thinking about taking the crown of their helmet or their shoulder pads or whatever and knocking your head off your shoulders, separating your head from your body, or whatever else they can do to you. It's not a fair fight. It's not. That's the only thing that gets on my nerves with these players about the stuff that they say. They act like it's fair fight, and it's not. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-SAY-ESPN, 866-729-3776. Back to your calls and more in a minute. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Catch the Stephen A. Smith Show live on 98.7 ESPN New York, ESPN LA 710, and Sirius XM Channel 80.
You just can't make this stuff up.
Weekdays from 1 till 3 Eastern.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I've never felt more alive.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will feel more alive. You either possess functioning respiratory and circulatory systems, or you do not, or you are a zombie. If you are indeed a brain-starved zombie and you would like to save money on car insurance, the Geico legal team applauds your excellent life choices, even in your shambling afterlife. But we strongly encourage you to visit geico.com or download the Geico app. Please stay a minimum of 500 feet away from our large and presumably delicious, delicious brains.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I want to take a moment to apologize to folks that came to the Garden, the theater inside Madison Square Garden, Saturday night. Certainly wasn't my fault, wasn't ESPN's fault, wasn't Top Rank's fault, wasn't Vasily Lomanchenko's fault, at least indirectly anyway. But Guillermo Rigondeaux fighting Lomachenko for the featherweight crown. I mean, he quit after the 6th round. This is like the third fighter that's quit against Lomachenko. And it's like, you know what? If your corner throws in the towel because you're getting your butt beat, I can forgive that. They want to save their fighter from really enduring real harm. I can understand that. But what gets on my nerve with these fighters, I mean, these guys are quitting against Vasily Lomachenko and running over to him smiling, giving him a hug. I mean, they didn't get knocked down. They're not getting brutalized. I mean, as far as we can say, I mean, they're getting beat. They're getting beat up. Maybe eventually they would have gotten knocked out. But what's really driving me crazy is that this is supposed to be a gladiator sport. And I'm seeing guys go against this kid and quitting. Rigondeaux is 17-0. Exceptional counterpuncher and boxer. Cuban defect. And quit. Talking about his hand hurt. And they didn't even get it right. Initially, they said it was his right hand. Then they said it was his left hand. So disgusting. Lomachenko needs to move up and fight Mikey Garcia. I agree with Teddy Atlas. Move up and fight Mikey Garcia at 135 pounds. Just wanted to throw that out there. Back to the phones we go at 866-SAY-ESPN, 866-729-3776. Evan, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen A. Hey, man, long-time listener, first-time caller. Love the show. You know, I'm blown away, Stephen A. I'm a medical professional by trade, and I just want to know, like, what were these specialists doing? And my question for Bill O'Brien is, like...
You're talking in regards to Tom Savage. You're talking in regards to Tom Savage.
Sir. Correct, sir. And if you're Bill O'Brien saying, well, if I had seen the footage, like, if your most important player on your team having what appears to be a seizure on the field isn't the most important thing to be looking at, what are you looking at? Like, what else are you looking at? And I just, like, the fact that these guys are getting paid good money, like, I work very hard to provide good quality care. These guys are getting paid money to evaluate this guy, and you and 40 million Americans watching from their couches, not medical professionals, can easily say, that guy doesn't belong on the field. Like, that guy might belong in a hospital, okay? And I'm blown away. I'm simply blown away. And it was, I think it was, you know, I want to know what the breakdown was. What did they do? How could they possibly say this guy was good?
Here's the deal. We got to go through a couple of things, okay? First of all, how does the policy work on game day, for example? It says here, I'm reading it on ESPN.com, it begins with the positioning of 4 independent and dedicated medical professionals. 2 certified athletic trainers sit in a booth above field level, acting as quote-unquote spotters, equipped with video playback gear and a dedicated radio connection with the sidelines. Each team is also assigned an unaffiliated neurological consultant who works alongside the team doctor. The unaffiliated neurological consultant, all right, it's a medical specialist who doesn't have a stake in the outcome of the game. So that combined with videos on the sidelines, video equipment on the sidelines, there's some on each where you can review replays of the incident in question. It's hard to fathom how folks wouldn't be able to spot what transpired with Tom Savage. Bill O'Brien himself may not have spotted it because he might have saw that he got sacked, put his head down, paying attention to the next play that he was going to call, Evan, etc. But somebody had to inform him, or somebody was obligated to do so. Somebody dropped the ball somewhere. That's what this comes down to.
drop the ball, like all at the same time. It is unfathomable. And it is absolutely like, were they playing fantasy football? Like, were they worried to the outcome of other games and what they were supposed to be doing? It blows.
No,
if you want,
listen, Evan, if you watch, hold it. If you watch games, the second a play is over, unless the series is over or the game is over, a coach usually puts his head down, looks right into his playbook to get ready to call the next play. That's almost always the case. So it's entirely possible that he might not have seen the initial reaction by Tom Savage. But that means there's enough personnel on your sideline to inform you of how dire the circumstances may be at that particular juncture. That's the point.
I just want to know, how could he have been cleared? Like, how could he pop, especially when he did not look right at all in the next series? It blows my mind, man.
Doesn't make any sense. Appreciate the call, though. Thank you. Let's go to Sean in Inglewood. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Sean.
Hey, Stephen A. I called last week about the Pittsburgh Steelers, man.
Mm-hmm.
They are a dream team, but they can also be a crash dream team, because yesterday they had over 500 yards of offense. But then again, they come in and their defense allowing 38 points, which is the most highest in the team. And my whole point is that every year they should just be a Super Bowl ready team. It's just like the Patriots, but it's something that's missing from there that I just don't get.
I tell you what's missing. Their pass rush isn't potent enough, and their secondary is suspect. And with Ryan Shazier out due to the spinal injury, and we're praying that he'll get well and have a speedy recovery, we have to take into account the fact that what you're looking for right now is, if you're the Steelers, here's what you need. You need your offense to be high octane and potent, okay? You need a pass rush, and you need some speed in your secondary, because Joe Hayden has to come back. We got to pray that he's going to come back healthy. And Shazier's replacement, whoever that's going to, Sean Spencer, somebody else, you need Shazier's replacement to have some speed. They had no speed. And Edelman and Amendola and those boys would have eaten the Steelers alive last night. Eaten them alive. The Steelers couldn't even stop Alex Collins. I never heard of him until last night. Never heard of him. Take it easy, Sean. James in L.A., you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen. This is the first time I've ever called you. I watched the fight the other night, and I'm a big fight fan. Grew up in Kentucky, Muhammad Ali. I think Lomachenko should either fight Devontae Davis, one of Mayweather's boys.
Yes.
Or
he's number 3.
Mike Garcia at 135.
Yes.
And
I agree.
Because those boys have heart. Those boys won't quit. They'll fight all the way to the end, whether their eyes closed. It doesn't matter. They'll fight. But the best fight of the night was you and Teddy Atlas. Thank you, brother. You did a really good job.
Well, thank you so much. I got to tell you something. Mikey Garcia, here's my thing about Javonte Davis. You know where I lost? Listen, and I like the kid, and I'm rooting for the kid. He and I had a long conversation when I was out in Vegas interviewing Mayweather before his fight against McGregor. And Javonte Davis is undefeated. He's 18-0 with 17 KOs. I like his moxie. I like his power. I like his bravado, his speed, everything. I like him a lot. But I got to tell you, I don't know if he's ready for Lomachenko yet. I don't know if he's ready. And here's the biggest reason why. How do you come into your last fight overweight and not disciplined enough to be able to defend your belt because you didn't meet the weight limit? See, stuff like that concerns me. And you can't have that kind of problem if you're trying to be a world-class, world champion boxer. You can't do it. And I think with Javonte Davis, that's my reservation about him right now. And not only that, you got to remember, Lomachenko is he seems too big and strong for guys at the 130 weight. I think he might need to move up to, I think Teddy was right about that, 135 against Mikey Garcia. That might be the way to go. That might be the way to go.
I want to see it on HBO one of these days.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. I appreciate the call. Let's go to JP in Brooklyn real quick. You only got a minute or so. Go ahead, buddy.
Hey, Stephen, thanks for having me.
No problem.
Hey, look, I saw this game yesterday, the Giants game, and I saw no difference from what I've been watching the past 6 years. Eli Manning not stepping up, not seizing the moment. Yesterday, everybody came out to see Eli play. In the first three plays of the game, what did you do? You run. You don't try to throw in the red zone. Come on. I'm done.
Yeah. And I don't blame you one bit. because you got nothing to lose. And if you don't go out there and be conservative in a game like that, basically just gave the Cowboys the game. What's there to say? I mean, am I supposed to be impressed by the Dallas Cowboys because they beat up on the New York Giants? Really? Am I supposed to be impressed with that? I'm not. Sorry. Not feeling it, not one bit. Eli was bad yesterday. I think the end is near. He may not want to admit it. And if the end ain't near, it definitely needs to be the end of New York. 31 for 46, 228 yards, only sacked twice. Just didn't seem to be there. Doesn't even look like he wants to be there any longer. Can't say I blame him either. Press conference for Giancarlo Stanton is over. He's the newest member of the New York Yankees. We'll come back, touch on that a little bit, and revisit this NFL talk along with what happened in boxing, if you want to. Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. I ain't going anywhere. Back with more in a minute.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Giancarlo Stanton just introduced as the newest member for the New York Yankees. The $295 million man. Actually, it was $325 million, but he's owed $295 million over the next 10 years. He's due to get paid $77 million between 2018 and 2020, including $25 million next season. He's got an opt-out in this deal after the 2020 season, which he probably won't exercise because by that time, he'll be in his 30s or at least 30 years of age, and he'll have about 7 or 8 years left on his deal. The Yankees picked up $265 of the $295 million he's owed. My man Dan LeBertard has spoken out adamantly against this deal, essentially accusing the deal of being Wall Street fraud and just condemning Derek Jeter, head of baseball operations for the Miami Marlins. That's what my colleague and friend Dan LeBertard said. I emphatically disagree with Dan LeBertard. Look, you owe about $400 million, about $400 million in debt, according to the reports that I read. About $400 million in debt. You ain't got any money. You were clearly in rebuilding mode. Not to mention the fact that not only were you in rebuilding mode, but Derek Jeter didn't take Jacoby Ellsbury's contract. The 3 years, $50+ million left on his deal, $60+ million left on his deal. If it were me, I would have made that a part of the deal if I was the New York Yankees GM Brian Cashman. I would have done that. I'm telling you that right now. No disrespect, but Ellsbury might be one of the worst contracts the Yankees have ever signed anybody to. Period. Yankees gave up Starlin Castro, minor league right-handed pitcher, or Jorge Guzman, and the minor league infielder Jose Devers. You know the scouting dude for the Marlins was somebody that was hired away from the Yankees by Jeter. So this is a guy that used to work in a Yankee scouting system. He would know how good these kids can end up being. If you're Jeter and you're the Marlins and you ain't trying to win right now, and you're trying to unload this contract, the man had a no-trade clause. And let's get to that one for a second, can we? Because if you're the Dodgers with your $244 million payroll, please listen. If you're the New York Yankees who are struggling to get under the $197 million tax threshold, please listen. Let me ask y'all a question. If I'm giving dudes 8 to 10 year contracts worth over $200 to $300 million, why the hell am I allowing them to have no trade clauses in their contract too? So I got to surrender that much money and the right to move you in the event that I'm going broke? I mean, what is wrong? Who are these executives? Who are these people? Laurie, the former owner for the Marlins, thank God you're gone. I mean, what the hell? I'm not giving up a no-trade clause on top of $325 million, one or the other. If you want the no-trade clause, let me cut your salary by $100 million. How about that? If I got to give you $300+ million, I'll be damned if I'm not going to have the right to move you if I feel the need to save myself some money, especially if we ain't winning. Damn that. I don't understand why they be giving up these no-trade clauses. I really don't get it. But Stanton didn't care, and he shouldn't. That's y'all problem. It's everybody else's problem. It ain't his. His problem was playing for a team that wasn't going to try to win. At least that's what he told the New York media about 10, 15 minutes ago. Listen to Stanton right now talking to the media upon being introduced as the newest New York Yankee.
The way they wanted to go was to subtract. So I let that be known. I didn't want to be a part of another rebuild, another losing season. And that's almost a guaranteed losing season, taking away what I thought was a great lineup. So, yes, I didn't want to be a part of a rebuild. Now, I gave my list of teams prior to, and they went to San Francisco and Cardinals and struck deals with them. So I was open to listen to them, but those were not my teams, and those are great people. They were great meetings and a great organization and culture there, but that just wasn't the fit for me.
So if you're Derek Jeter, Dan Le Batard, what the hell are you supposed to do? He didn't want to go to San Francisco. He didn't want to go to St. Louis. He wanted to go to the Dodgers, or he wanted to go to New York. And the Dodgers weren't willing to pick up $265 million. What was Jeter supposed to do? I'm not overly enamored with Derek Jeter, the executive. Derek Jeter, El Capitan, the player, the 5-time champion, I love and revere. The executive, I'm not so sure. I don't understand why he's not at these league meetings right now. He should have been there. Absolutely. But he is right when he says, look, y'all, the Miami Marlins, the Florida Marlins, they haven't been successful. They haven't been, not only, they won the World Series in 2003. Not only have they not won another World Series, they haven't been to the postseason ever since. It's 14 years and counting. And you're broke. You're nearly $400 million in debt. What was he supposed to do? He didn't take on any bad contracts. He got aspiring prospects along with Starlin Castro. He only had to pay out $30 million of the $295 million still owed to Stanton. I don't understand what Derek Jeter did wrong here. The Marlins did something wrong. The Florida Marlins did something wrong because they gave Stanton a no-trade clause. You think Stan was going to turn down $325 million if you said, okay, you got to waive your no-trade clause? We can't give you $325 million plus a no-trade clause. You think Stan was going to say no to that? Good Lord have mercy. I don't understand people sometimes. I really, really don't. Jeter in L.A., you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Stephen A., how you doing?
Go ahead, buddy.
I am so excited today. I just watched the Stanton press conference. We got these young guns. Yankees are back. We got a good-looking manager, a great-looking team.
Well, I got news for you. I got news for you. The Yankees were back before Stanton arrived. He was just in Game 7 of the ALCS, but go ahead.
Cherry on top. But the point I want to make, even though family is family, okay? Trust me. There was things going on between Jeter and the Yankees to make this happen, okay?
Really?
So
really?
No, I know it was a business decision.
So?
But
stop right there. Stop right there, Jeter. The fact of the matter is Stanton had a no-trade clause. If he didn't have the no-trade clause, that will buffer your argument. That no-trade clause eradicates all of that. There's no conspiracy here. He had a no-trade clause, and he was free to go where he wanted to go. There were deals in place for St. Louis and San Francisco. He didn't want it.
And he didn't want the Dodgers.
Okay, but did the Dodgers come up with $265 million?
We'll never know that. We'll never know.
No. I got to stop right there. Jeter, I can make some phone calls. I'll have an answer for you by tomorrow. I promise you. I promise you. Here in LA. I mean, with the reporters for ESPN and the LA Times and everybody that covers the Dodgers as exceptionally well as they do. I promise you, I'll have an answer for you by tomorrow's show as to whether or not the Dodgers, what the Dodgers will want to offer for Stanton. I promise you that. That's an easy call.
In New York, it reminds me of when Kevin McHale when he figured out that the big ticket would not be able to win a championship in Minnesota, he sent him back to Boston to Danny Ainge. That was a big favor, too.
Stop right there. You can't compare the two. Now you're in my league. Kevin Garnett, wanted to stay and had to be convinced to leave by Chauncey Billups and others who were in his face saying, do you want to win or not? Do you want to win or not? That's number one. Number two, Al Jefferson was a part of that deal. It was a clear heist on a part of Danny Ainge where Kevin McHale did him a favor by giving him Kevin Garnett. That's not the case here. This isn't Derek Jeter doing the Yankees a favor. This is Derek Jeter saddled with a franchise that's broke and hasn't been relevant in 14 years and trying to unload the contract. Derek Jeter and the Marlins didn't want to pay. How are you going to sit up there and think about anything else when you're going broke, but you're still owing one player $295 million? You're trying to unload that contract. You don't give a damn if you get a box of cookies in return. You need to get rid of that contract. That's the number one objective you have. Period.
I'll wait for your response tomorrow about the Dodgers.
That's right. I appreciate that. You do that. Take it easy. Have a good day. 866-SAY-ESPN. It's 866-729-3776. Your calls to close out the show in a minute. You're listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Want to be a part of the show? Hit Stephen A. up weekdays from 1 to 3 Eastern at 866-729-3776.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Back to the phones we go right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. As always, the number to call up is 866-729-3776. That's 866-SAY-ESPN. Let's go to Marty in L.A. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Marty. How are you? Marty? Marty, are you there? Marty, get your line straight. I'll come back to you. Let's go to Randy.
I'm right here.
All right, go ahead, Marty. Don't keep us waiting.
Man?
Don't keep me waiting. Let's go.
Okay, I look at it this way. Case Keenum is getting underrated again. He makes a couple bad passes, and I think they can go all the way with Case Keenum. He really has the passion in his eyes. He really looks like
really. Hold on.
Yes.
You called me up to speak up for a quarterback because he's got passion in his eyes?
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
So what? Jay Cutler's got passion sometimes. And you know how I feel about him. Geno Smith has passion. How you feel about him? Eli Manning ain't devoid of passion this year. How you feel about him?
Hey, it's not about the resume. It's about what he's doing now, man.
Well, I understand that. And what is Case Keenum? Listen, Case Keenum is good. Listen, let me be very, very clear to you, Marty. I've been very impressed with what I've seen from Case Keenum. He's completed nearly 67% of his passes. He's got 18 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He hasn't been bad at all. I give him a lot of respect. But haven't you noticed when the pressure is amped and you need big moments from Case Keenum, it's the defense that's usually coming through for Minnesota, not the offense? I feel a lot better. And by the way, Marty, I feel a lot better about Minnesota if Dalvin Cook was back there running the football. I really would. I really would.
I do not agree because when Bradford was in there and Case Keenum came in, that offense started moving, and the tuck and run. Man, he's put this team on a different level. Because he's mobile. Because he's more mobile than Sam Bradford, like most people are. The only people that's not more mobile than Sam Bradford is probably Tom Brady and Eli Manning. I mean, so you got a point there. Listen, he's been accurate this year. Case Keenum's been around a long time, bro. Let's not act like the guy is new to all of this. Case Keenum has been in the league since 2012. Case Keenum is a guy with a 17-18 record as a starter. And, oh, by the way, 8 of those victories have come this year. So let's understand that. Okay, so here's the big question. At the end of the year, let's say the Vikings go to the championship. They don't make it all the way. What do you do with Bridgewater the following year? Do you start him, or do you he's not going to be a second string quarterback. That's for damn sure.
Well, let me tell you something right now. I got to see what happens in training camp. I'm going to give Teddy Bridgewater an opportunity to win the starting job since he was the starter before he got injured.
I'm going to give him an opportunity to win that job, and let's see what Case Keenum and the others do at that particular moment in time. I got to run, Marty. I appreciate the call. Thank you. Matt in Queens, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me. Matt, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready for you.
Go ahead. Speak up.
Quick question. Sorry. I was just curious. I know everyone's all pumped about Stanton being on the Yankees, but do you think they were better off maybe, staying the way they were doing, farm system, growing them through, spreading the money out, than just kind of loading up on one guy? I mean, I know he's great, but
they gave up a couple. They gave up a couple of prospects in Castro. It's not like they gave up the farm. They've got a lot. They've got a lot of tools. They've got, and listen. He's a young lion. He's 28 years old, man. He's 28 years old and just finished smacking 59 home runs, and is the reigning National League MVP. And when you talk about putting Judge, him, and Sanchez in that 2, 3, 4 spot, I love it. Now, here's my trepidation. 2 parts. Number one, I prefer elite pitching any day, obviously. Okay? I prefer elite pitching, obviously. But number 2, and more importantly, Aaron Judge struck out 208 times. Stanton struck out 163 times. I'm just looking at it from the standpoint, I mean, look, man, that's 371 strikeouts. That worries me. That, especially after seeing the way the Judge and Sanchez struggled, whether it be on the road or at home in Sanchez's case in the postseason. They both got big hits too. Especially at home, Aaron Judge was a monster, but on the road, he was a disaster. That concerns me. When I see strikeouts, that concerns me. But there's no question that lineup is monstrous. No doubt.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Stephen. Thank you.
Thank you. D'Angelo, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick. Go ahead, buddy.
Hey, what's going on, Stephen A? Real quick, I just want to talk about the Carson Wentz situation and Nick Foles, stepping in. I mean, didn't he go 27-2 with Chip Kelly? Yep. And don't you think that he could just step in there with all those weapons, the stable running backs?
Well, that's why I said I still put the Eagles as the team to beat, because you're the number 1 seed. The chances are the road to the Super Bowl is going to have to come through Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, and the parts around him combined with his knowledge of the system. You got to remember, Chip Kelly is a totally different system than Doug Peterson, even though he did throw 27 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions that one year. But Nick Foles is a viable, quality backup, and the parts around him on both sides of the ball, I think, will bode well for Philadelphia, where they still deserve the edge in the NFC. I do believe that. Got to run. Appreciate it. Ramsey, you got 30 seconds. Go.
Just wanted to ask, and I mean, you may have to get back to it tomorrow, what do you feel for the state of the future of boxing in 2018? What fights would you like to personally see?
Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua, a rematch of Triple G versus Canelo, and I'd love to see Terrence Crawford in the welterweight division ending up going up against Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, or ultimately an Errol Spence Jr. That is what I would like to see. Those are the 3 things that I want to see most in the sport of boxing, with a distant fourth, Lomachenko, going up against somebody bigger like Mikey Garcia. That's me. Got to get on out of here. Hope y'all enjoy the day. Congratulations to the New York Yankees for having a home run man, Mr. Stanton, in a Yankees uniform. More NFL action to get into tomorrow. Until then, peace and love.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app.